Hey everyone, today is Friday, March 22nd, and wow, the gardening season is officially just starting to bear down on us. You can see everything that I've started. I'll be giving you a tour of seedlings soon, but today I wanted to talk to you about sowing nasturtium indoors and the debate of whether you should direct sow it into the garden when the weather permits or if you should start it indoors. Now, I'm going to go over multiple varieties with you today and tell you just how many I am sowing, why I'm sowing it, where I'm sowing it, and the process that I use to get the seeds started before I actually sow it into soil. Now this year I'm breaking up my nasturtium into different varieties. You have the varieties like the jewel mix where you get a lot of seeds for the price of the ticket to buy it. And then you get your higher end, more diva-like nasturtium like Bloody Mary. Now you only get 10 seeds or a minimum of 10 seeds in this packet. And they're a little bit more exotic and really very, very beautiful. Nasturtium has multiple purposes and uses, so I am separating my higher end nasturtium from the more common nasturtiums that I know for a fact will grow well because I want to see where I'm putting them in the garden. So today I'm going to go over the list with you of some of my higher end varieties like Bloody Mary, and then I'll show you the ones that I think are more common that I know will grow and where I will be placing them. One of the things about nasturtium is the seed requires a little bit of extra work. The first thing that you want to do with it is go through the scarification process, which means you're basically filing down or nicking down the outer husk of the seed, which is very, very thick, and water will eventually penetrate it, but if you want to get it started earlier, you'll want to give it a little help. So this is where the scarification process comes in, and I'll be showing you that up close. So this orchid cream nasturtium I thought was absolutely beautiful. Now, some of these nasturtiums grow, as I was saying earlier, at different sizes. When you look at the description on the back, it will tell you whether or not it's variegated. You know, this one gets 12 inches tall and 10 inches wide. And, it gives you, a brief description of, how big it gets. But what I really loved about this was the color, and I saw a few people online on the various face group pages that have grown this, and the colors are truly striking. Now, nasturtium seeds in general all look alike, so it's really difficult if you were to go ahead and scarify these and put them all in one container. You would never know what variety you're dealing with. So I like to take them out and I make a note of how many I'm going to sow of each variety. Now, these types are specialties, so you really get substantially less seeds than you would with some of the other types that are more common. So I'm just going to do 4 of each of these, and I'm going to start a separate label for them. I'll write the label on, and then I'm going to soak them in their own little container. Now, I like to just take these and use a nail file. Some people like to use a nail clipper, but I go ahead and just use the nail file, and it does make a little bit of a mess. And as you can see, I don't even file my own fingernails. So to have to sit here and try to scarify these tiny little seeds, to me, it's like, okay, I'd like to file my own nails, but yet I'm sitting here filing seeds. They're much softer than a lot of, there are other seeds that just seem really, really hard to get through when you have to scarify them, but these are easy. Now I'm gonna try to give you a close-up after I get through to its core, through the husk of what you'll know to look for. So you can see after you've filed for a moment, it will go from its darker outer shell, which is just a little bit more hard, and then you'll just see it will just expose a little bit of the actual softer seed inside. So there you go. So you just keep taking it and just giving that file on several sides so it has the opportunity to soak, and then the seed will germinate easier. Not everyone soaks them and scarifies them, but I like to do it to make sure. So you saw the scarification process of the orchid cream. This is another one of the varieties I will be starting fewer seeds of. These more beautiful, well, they're all beautiful. I have yet to see a nasturtium that I didn't like, which is hence why there are going to be so many varieties to show you today. I love them all, especially the ones with the variegated leaves. The leaves alone are absolutely gorgeous. But something like this I'll be using to overflow from the sides of pots. Some of it, because they attract pollinators, I'll be offering it in the butterfly garden, and whereas other varieties will be going out into the vegetable garden because they have multiple purposes. So now that you've seen how I scar the seeds, I'm going to show you how I soak them. Now you can see in the disaster of the kitchen table that I will not pan out wide to show you is an absolute disaster, but it's gardening season, you guys. So what I did after I scarred the seeds was soak them in some water. And some people like to soak the seed long enough that it actually starts to sprout. But in my experience with growing nasturtium for several years now, I haven't really had to wait that long. Some softens and sprouts quicker than others, but knowing that you can direct sow these into the garden and they always show up, I would say you don't have to be, too worried about how long you've actually let them soak. The key is really to get that scarification process where you can see the inside, the white side of the seed is actually exposed from its hull, allowing the water to get in and light, and eventually, and then you'll get a sprout. So last night while I was preparing for this, I patiently sat and scarified 72 of these little seeds, and I actually scarified my finger as well. And luckily it did not bleed. But you can really get into it when you're filing away or nipping away with nail clippers. I don't really recommend nail clippers for this. This is easy enough with the nail file. But so what I did was with each variety, I left out my packet. I started a tag for it. I put out my amount of seeds because this is going to help you later on when you're organized in advance. So there's no question with what you're doing or trying to remember how many you sowed. Once you get an idea of what you want to see, it's a good idea to plan out where you want to put these things and what you're going to need. Like for instance, this beautiful Alaska red variegated has such a rich red flower and this amazing variegated leaf. It likes to be trellised because this one does climb a little bit more than the others. Some are compact, some grow wider, some grow taller. So when you do a massive amount of varieties like this to decide which one you like the best, or maybe you like them all best like me, you're going to want to be organized. So it's key to do it this way. And my purpose this year is because I'm going through trial and error to see if there's one I like the best, how I'm going to use it, like I said earlier. And this way, the organization of making labels and designated areas in the garden will really help you to let them be individual plants, not just, oh, well, that's nasturtium. You'll know exactly which variety it is, how it's performing in the garden, and if it's living up to the purposes that it's supposed to have. So we'll be getting into those purposes in just a moment. So I'm getting these ready now to start in my cells. Some I started 8 seeds like this one here because the Fiesta blend, you see I got it in a big pack. Absolutely beautiful. This is a workhorse in the garden for multiple purposes, so this is going to be going in several locations. So really, even if you just pick one, you guys, one of the less expensive packs, you will never be disappointed with nasturtium. Another variety I wanted to highlight to you here, which I got from Burpee at Lowe's at $1.96. Empress of India grows the most beautiful, vibrant red flower with a yellow throat. The picture here really does not do it justice. When the light shines through it, it's absolutely brilliant. So this is a variety that is worth growing just for its looks alone. Now here's another variety that I really, really love, Alaska variegated. The leaves on this alone, as I was saying a few moments ago, are so stunning. It stands out in the garden, and I mean, it's like someone hand painted them. It's absolutely brilliant. And then when the various colors of flowers bloom, It's so eye-catching that you stand and stare at it and think, oh my gosh, this is so beautiful. Now, I had mentioned that people grow nasturtium for various reasons. Nasturtium is known to be an edible crop. Some people like varieties that are peppery, and you can use it for garnish or recipes to add an extra pop of flavor. Some varieties are sweet and are used in baking or garnish for cakes. So either way, it is edible. However, if you're going to consume this or try to grow it for medicinal purposes, I am not a physician or a pharmacist, and I'm not really giving you advice, but what I'm saying is if you're planning on consuming this at any level, you'll want to know the health consequences that could be involved. For instance, if you have any stomach ulcers or stomach sensitivity or kidney problems, nasturtium is known to intensify those problems. So I would encourage you to know what your health issues are if you have any before you eat something like this. Now, I grow it in the garden for two reasons. Well, three reasons. I like nasturtium not just for the way it looks, but for its multiple purposes in the garden. So many pollinators and various types of insects love nasturtium. Some good insects and some are bad insects. Now, I use it as a sacrificial trap crop. You will notice not too long after it starts to get mature leaves, you'll start to see little leaf miners have gotten in there, and they leave little trails across the leaves. Now, I don't want to eat a leaf of something that has leaf miners in it. Maybe someone does. I, however, will not. And the flowers attract a multitude of insects, from good pollinators to bad insects in the garden, like an abundance of aphids. So the aphids will go to this before they go to something else where they might suck the sap out of your tomatoes or a flower that you really, really love. The nasturtium is built to handle these types of invaders. The pollinators and butterflies love them as well. And something I noticed last year for the first time was we had this actual variety planted in with peppers, and we got an invasion of harlequin beetles, and it was like a biblical invasion. There were so many. They reproduced so rapidly. They were all over the nasturtium. So the nasturtium stopped them from going all over the peppers. However, the pepper bed itself was infested with the harlequin beetles. So I would say that the nasturtium probably saved the day in that situation. I like to plant these right in the garden, mixed in with my various vegetables, because some say that it can enhance the flavors of your vegetables. But I'm big on having pollinator-friendly plants mixed in that do double duty, like I said, as the sacrificial trap crop and the beneficial crop. Over time, nasturtium can start to deplete your soil of nutrients, so you're going to want to put it in a place where you'll be fertilizing, and don't put it too close to anything that's a heavy feeder though, because it could rob the nutrients from what you're planting over time. Where I like exposure for these, nasturtium really prefers cooler weather, so the balance for me is when I'm planting it in a place where it's going to get extreme heat, I'll plant it more in the shade. If you have a cooler environment, you can plant this in full sun and get the benefits of that. So you need to find balance with where you're planting your nasturtium so you get the maximum amount of blooms and the best benefits from the flower itself. The Alaska variegated is one where I'm sowing 8 seeds, and I will be putting this around the vegetable beds as well as some of the others. Now, the more fancy varieties that I talked about, as I said, will be getting planted in the base of pots to trail down and be more of an ornamental, pollinator-friendly pollinator attractor, because things like hummingbirds love the big bright leaves, and they would certainly prefer the nectar of this over a plastic hummingbird feeder that's full of bacteria. And you know what, you guys? I'm sorry, but I'm going to take every opportunity I can to reach people about the bad pitfalls of having the hummingbird feeders. If you're going to commit to, I'm going to go off on this again. If you're going to commit that you think in your best interest, and the best interest of the hummingbirds and your best intent, that you're going to manage your hummingbird feeders and you're going to keep them clean, you're going to replenish the nectar, and you're going to sit and stare and wait for the hummingbirds to come. If you are making a promise and a commitment to that feeder to keep it clean and healthy for those birds, then I just wish that you would make the commitment to just water a real plant, like nasturtiums in a basket or some red petunias. It's so much easier, and they get real food, not artificial nectar. So think about your pollinators as well when you offer a flower like this, and not an artificial feeder. It really pays in the end, and you get healthier birds, you have a healthier garden, you have more pollinators, everything is friendly, and nobody's getting sick. So now I'm going to go over all of my varieties. Alaska variegated will get planted in more mass mixed in the garden, the vegetable garden and ornamental gardens. Fiesta blend I've grown also, just as beautiful as the Alaska variegated. The difference is the leaves are not variegated in the Fiesta blend. Jewel mix also has a green leaf, and it has very deep, rich tones of big, beautiful flowers. Tip Top Alaska is more of a compact flower, and it has some light variegation to its leaves, and it just has a beautiful multicolored flower. Bloody Mary, again, this is a showstopper. This is one that will be going to help dress up the flower pots. Empress of India was a good repellent around my eggplant, and it didn't keep all the squash bugs away, but it really did help. So I grew this one low under tomatoes and eggplants. Cherry Rose Jewel I will be treating as an ornamental as well. The Alaska Red Variegated will be, this is such a beautiful flower. This will be going on a small trellis. It doesn't grow like a real true big creeping vine. It's small, but it needs support. Tip Top Mahogany is another really beautiful, rich tone flower. Peach Melba, the red that pops out off of this beautiful buttery yellow orange flower is just gorgeous. It has a beautiful fan on the leaves. And then this orchid cream I have seen, and I can't remember if it produced in the garden last year or not. I sowed it late in the year, and I sowed it direct. I'm really looking forward to this again as another highlighted flower. The butterscotch here, I have grown in masses. It grows easy. It's a beautiful, truly buttery variation of yellow to orange flowers. It's really, really gorgeous, and it grows very, very easily. Now, nasturtium likes to be planted regardless of where you're planting it. It likes well-drained, fertile soil. Also, this is one you're going to want to plant down probably at around a ½ inch, and we'll see, Botanical Interest recommends a ½ inch to 1 inch down. They also recommend that you do not start it inside, that you direct sow it into the garden. Whereas other vendors say go ahead and start it indoors if you want to see early blooms. It depends on your climate and how quickly you're going to see it. If you're in a warmer climate and you can get this sowed out, you can give it a good drink, and it's not going to go through any really cold conditions, you can go ahead and direct sow it if you have the wherewithal to put labels in, if you want to see it and know exactly what it is. And they do say it's prone to root disturbance, but Baker Creek says to go ahead and start it indoors 6 to 8 weeks prior to your last frost date if you want to exactly know where you're planting them out at. And I've seen people do it indoors and they plant out just fine. Now, if you're starting nasturtium indoors, you will want to make sure that you put your seed starting tray in a place where it's not getting any direct sunlight or lamplight or grow lights. Darkness aids in germination with nasturtium, just like it does with delphinium and fennel and some other herbs. So just make sure when you get it started, you give it a good drink and mist it as usual. Put your dome on top, cover it up and put it in a place where you don't have to worry about intense darkness. Just get it out of any natural sunlight or any artificial light and let it be in a darker spot. You can always put a box on top of it or some sort of a bag or a cover or something just to give it almost a little bit of privacy. So I will be sowing some directly out into the garden, like as almost a succession sowing with them, so I can make sure that if they go in the ground as started flowers and if they wilt or they just have root disturbance, there will be some followed behind it. But I'm going to keep my fingers crossed for going through this method of getting them started. And either way, like I said, even if you're going to direct sow them into the garden or you're going to start them indoors, you still have to go through that scarification and soaking process. Soaking is 12 to 24 hours approximately before you put it into the soil. Now, let's hope that we get good germination with these and we enjoy a nice long and early season of nasturtium in the garden. So if you have any comments about my varieties or any tips for all of us who are learning together, we would appreciate it if you would comment below. Thanks so much for watching all about nasturtium. I hope this helped you. If it did, please give this video a thumbs up. If you have not subscribed, please subscribe to our channel. It really does help us, and we love hearing from you guys and getting to know you. So let's all grow some nasturtium together. And oh, you know what? One more thing I want to add here. There are a couple things about nasturtium that you should overthink and a couple things that you should not overthink. Don't overthink it. Either sow it indoors or sow it outdoors, but get some nasturtium into your garden. Overthink, maybe consider, if you're growing it for consumption, what your health is like and whether or not you want to take a risk with this and do a little bit of research. So anyway, nasturtium in the garden as just a flower is absolutely wonderful and beneficial, not just for your eyes and your spirit, but for the garden itself. So grow some nasturtium, you guys. Thanks for watching. Hope to see you in the next video.